It's a big courtroom success for music entrepreneur Sean "Diddy" Combs. One of the many sexual assault claims against him has just been rejected by a New York judge. The reason? The alleged victim refuses to expose her identity publicly. So what does that actually signify for Diddy's bigger legal battle? Let's break it down. Now, while this might seem like a move in the right direction for the 55-year-old hip-hop artist, it's vital to understand. His legal storm is far from over. Combs is still facing some pretty severe claims. He was arrested last September in Manhattan, slammed with allegations that include racketeering, sex trafficking, and even transporting individuals for the purpose of prostitution. Prosecutors didn't hold back. According to the unsealed indictment, Combs is said to have commanded a criminal enterprise related to everything from sexual violence and prostitution to drug distribution, bribery, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. And once those charges surfaced, well, the floodgates erupted. Dozens more individuals, both women and men, came forward, initiating legal lawsuits with their own allegations of abuse. One of those lawsuits, however, is already off the books. This particular complaint was brought in October 2024 by a lady named only as Jane Doe. She stated that back in 1995, at a party in New York City, Combs attempted to sexually assault her, and when she resisted, things escalated violently. She claims it all started during a promotional party for the Notorious B.I.G.'s music video, One More Chance. According to her lawsuit, Combs observed her dancing with friends, approached her, and asked to speak alone. He then brought her into a bathroom, and that's where things took a sinister turn. Doe stated that Combs began kissing her abruptly when she asked him to calm down, making it apparent she believed they were simply going to talk. She claims he grew aggressive. As she tried to pull away, she alleges he pushed her head into the wall, causing her to collapse. What she recounted next is genuinely terrible. According to Doe, Combs beat her again before lifting her dress and raping her while she lay dazed on the floor. Then, she alleges, he threatened her, warning, "You better not tell anyone about this or you'll disappear." Her attorney, Tony Busby, had filed a motion asking that she be permitted to remain nameless throughout the proceedings, but the court denied that request. The judge set a firm deadline, March 20th. Either divulge your name or the case gets dismissed. She elected not to move forward, and just like that, the lawsuit was thrown out. In a statement to Variety, Busby explained his client's choice. He stated she simply didn't feel secure stepping into the public spotlight with her identity disclosed. According to him, there is a lot of fear among these plaintiffs. I don't blame her. These circumstances are severe, and reliving the pain can be traumatic. Each person needs to decide for themselves what they're willing to suffer. She opted not to continue further, and we have to respect that. On the other side, Combs' legal team applauded the ruling, calling it a win in what has become an increasingly high-profile and extremely controversial court struggle. This marks the second case against Sean "Diddy" Combs that's been thrown out completely, and from the looks of it, more dismissals are likely on the future. Over the past few months, we've witnessed a flood of claims filed by anonymous persons, many of them seemingly more driven by media attention than legal substance. According to Combs' legal team, these actions lack genuine merit, and today's rejection is only the latest in a line of triumphs for the music tycoon. Just last month, Combs gained another huge courtroom success when a federal judge struck out 5 key counts in a $30 million sexual assault complaint. That complaint was launched by his former music producer, Rodney "Lil Rod" Jones, one of the first to take legal action when Combs' legal difficulties began snowballing back in 2023. Jones initially filed in February 2024, and by April he had modified his case, alleging Combs of orchestrating a criminal organization that allegedly included his own son, Justin, his chief of staff Christina Chorus, and others in his circle. Jones provided a frightening picture of what allegedly happened while he was working on Combs' Love record from September 2022 to November 2023. According to him, he faced sexual harassment, was drugged, intimidated, and subjected to inappropriate behavior by Combs himself, including being exposed to Combs wandering around naked, unsolicited physical contact, and efforts to draw him into sexual scenarios. He even claimed that people connected to Combs, including actor Cuba Gooding Jr., were involved in beating him. Despite the alarming nature of these accusations, the judge wasn't convinced by all of Jones' statements. Several important charges were dismissed, like intentional and negligent infliction of mental distress, breach of contract, and a human trafficking action against Combs Global. The RICO indictment, which accused Combs and his friends of organized criminal conduct, was also thrown out. But Combs isn't out of the woods yet. The judge did allow some significant allegations to proceed forward. Claims under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, as well as sexual assault and culpability accusations, are still on the table for both Combs and his company, Quorum. Then there's Christina Corus, referred to by many as Combs' right-hand woman. She's been mentioned in many cases and has become a prominent role in these judicial proceedings. In a now-resurfaced Facebook post from 2021, Combs himself even said that he couldn't picture functioning without her. Last month, Corus broke her silence for the first time, adamantly denying any wrongdoing. In a public statement, she said, "For months, horrifying accusations have been made about me in various lawsuits tied to my former boss. These false charges have caused immeasurable damage, not just to my reputation, but also to the emotional well-being of my family. I have never, under any condition, participated in or endorsed the sexual assault or drugging of anyone. The idea that I might even be suspected of being there during such activities is not only offensive, it's terribly troubling. That's not who I am. My heart hurts for true victims of sexual assault, and I'm convinced that the truth will vindicate my name." As for Combs, his legal saga is far from over. He's presently being held at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, awaiting the next chapter of what's turning into one of the most dramatic and high-profile court battles in the history of the music industry. He continues to defend his innocence, pleading not guilty. To go deeper into the legal side of things, I chatted with legal analyst Nima Romani, who offered insight on a new twist in the case. One of the plaintiffs had wanted to be anonymous, but that request was refused by the judge. So, how common is that? And what considerations weigh into such a decision? Romani noted that while states like New York and California do have statutes that allow victims of sexual abuse to stay anonymous, things are different in federal court. There's no corresponding federal statute, which means it's ultimately up to the judge's judgment. Under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 10, the court has to evaluate several factors: the potential harm to the alleged victim, how sensitive the claims are, the impact on the accused, and if the victim has previously revealed their identity. And in a high-stakes case like this, every decision, no matter how trivial it may seem, can have a big influence. After examining all the crucial considerations, the judge eventually sided with the defense, and one major reason appears to be the sheer amount of time that's gone by. We're talking about allegations that date back 30 years. It's exceedingly difficult to examine claims that old, especially when there's ambiguity about the identity of the alleged victim. Now, going deeper, what are the legal merits and cons of letting alleged victims stay anonymous in civil cases? On one side, you've got a good argument. Survivors of sexual abuse deserve privacy. They've already been through trauma, and announcing their name publicly could re-traumatize them all over again. That's why many states have protections like these built into their legal systems, though not all. On the flip side, defendants have their rights too, like the right to due process. They should know who's accusing them, especially in civil proceedings when they're contesting serious charges like rape or sexual assault. It's almost tough to develop a competent defense if you don't even know who your accuser is. So it's a challenging legal balancing act. In this particular situation, the court leaned toward upholding the rights of the defense, and that tells us this wasn't an easy judgment. Now, does this dismissal signify a big turning point in Sean Combs' legal battle, or is it simply a minor step? Honestly, it's more of a little win than a game changer. This was just one lawsuit among several. But here's what's interesting. This could really be part of a wider legal strategy. By compelling accusers to expose their names, the defense might be conveying a message. If you come forward, expect to be publicly identified. That can have a chilling impact. Some victims might now think twice about pursuing their charges, fearing media attention and public scrutiny. And let's suppose, just hypothetically, could the plaintiff come back and refile if she subsequently decides to divulge her identity? In theory, yes, but in practice, not likely. The statute of limitations has expired for many of these types of claims. New York had a limited legal window open for survivors to file old cases, but that window has closed. Even though the case was dismissed without prejudice, which technically allows for refiling, unless the new filing can legally tie back to the original, it's definitely a done thing. Realistically, her choice to pull out is probably final. Now let's speak about the wider picture. What are the primary difficulties for prosecutors in instances like this, with multiple accusers and decades-old allegations? The main challenge is credibility. The older the claims, the easier it is for the defense to argue that they're made up. Prosecutors want something, anything, from around the time of the alleged encounter. A report to police, a doctor's visit, or even just confiding in a friend or family member. That kind of evidence makes a significant impact. Otherwise, the defense may easily alter the narrative. This isn't about justice, it's about money. They'll argue it's just a cash grab targeting a wealthy celebrity. Finally, does this particular dismissal alter how a jury would see Sean Combs in future trials? The short answer, no. Each instance stands on its own. This one won't influence the others. In the criminal case, we already know prosecutors have brought up 3 alleged victims, and they might bring even more to the stand. But when it comes to the civil claims, each one is independent. The jury's task in every individual instance is to determine, did the assault happen? And if so, what are the damages? So don't expect all the civil claims to be grouped together. They'll each be handled one at a time. So Combs's legal team is basically coming out swinging, saying the plaintiffs are chasing headlines more than justice. But if you really look at how these lawsuits are unfolding, it's not so black and white. The victims in these cases aren't all the same. Some have stepped into the spotlight, doing interviews and making their accusations public. Others, like the woman listed as Jane Doe, have chosen to stay anonymous. So it wouldn't be fair, or even accurate, to paint all of them with the same brush. Everyone handles trauma differently, and that plays a role in how they approach these legal battles. Now, there's also this point about timing. We're talking about incidents that allegedly happened nearly 30 years ago. That kind of time gap, it definitely makes things more complicated. Courts tend to struggle with what we call cold cases, whether it's criminal or civil, because the evidence just isn't as fresh. There's no rape kit, no DNA evidence left to test. Eyewitnesses may no longer remember what they saw, or they may not even be alive anymore. And that passage of time becomes a major advantage for the defense. They'll argue, if this really happened, why are we only hearing about it now, decades later? Once Cassie Ventura came forward, it opened the floodgates for other women to speak up. But without solid physical evidence, proving these claims becomes an uphill battle. And when you compare this to other big-name cases, like Harvey Weinstein or R. Kelly, you start to see a pattern. In situations like those, the thing that really shifts the momentum is the number of victims. When it's just one person's word against another's, jurors sometimes hesitate. But when multiple people come forward, all telling eerily similar stories of abuse and assault, it becomes harder and harder for a jury, or the public, to dismiss it all as a coincidence. What sets Diddy's case apart, though, is the alleged existence of actual video evidence. Apparently, there are recordings, what some are calling a treasure trove, that document these so-called freak-offs. And if those tapes are real, they're going to be a huge factor. It's hard to claim something didn't happen if there's video of it. That's why it looks like the defense is shifting the narrative, not denying the acts, but insisting that everything was consensual. Because let's be real, consensual sex between adults, no matter how extreme, isn't illegal. What crosses the line into criminal territory is when there's force, fraud, or coercion involved. That's when it becomes sex trafficking. And speaking of defense strategies, here's what they seem to be going for. They're trying to frame all of this as consensual behavior between adults who were fully aware of what they were getting into. They might even argue that money was exchanged, which could fall under prostitution. Sure, but that's a much lesser charge compared to sex trafficking or anything under RICO. From a defense perspective, if they can get the conversation away from trafficking and racketeering and steer it towards something like prostitution, that's a huge win. So part of their game plan is to go after the credibility of the accusers, saying they're all in it for the money, filing lawsuits just to get a payout. It's not a new tactic, but it's often effective in sowing doubt, especially in criminal trials where the burden of proof is higher. Now, for folks who might not be totally clear on what sex trafficking or RICO charges actually mean, let's break it down. Starting with prostitution. It's when someone offers or pays for sex, typically with money. That alone is illegal in most places, including under federal law. But sex trafficking kicks in when that sexual act is obtained through force, fraud, or coercion. For example, if someone is threatened or manipulated into having sex, that's trafficking. And it gets even more serious if the victim is under 18, because minors legally cannot consent. So, if an adult has sex with a minor, that's automatically considered non-consensual under federal law. In Diddy's case, the allegations aren't just about sex. They're about how it happened. If there was any kind of threat, manipulation, or pressure involved, that moves it into trafficking territory. And if it was part of a broader pattern or organization, if there were others involved, helping to set it up, keep it quiet, or profit from it, then that's where RICO comes in. That law was originally created to target organized crime, but it's been used more and more in cases involving sex trafficking, especially when there's evidence of coordination or conspiracy. Did members of his entourage or security team truly push these victims, both men and women, into these acts? That's when the element of force comes into play. These folks said they complied out of fear. Now, when we talk about coercion, we're looking at the excessive drug use that was reportedly involved. If someone is under the influence, they're not in correct state of mind to offer informed, voluntary permission. That's a key component of the prosecution's argument here. Now, fraud doesn't seem to be the key focus in this particular case, but in other sex trafficking situations, like with the former CEO of Cum & Finch, people were allegedly enticed under false pretenses, thinking they were going to a modeling gig, only to discover out they were being exploited sexually. That's textbook fraud. But here, in this instance, the prosecution seems laser-focused on demonstrating elements of force and compulsion. We already touched on the Jane Doe case. Now let's turn to Lil Rod's issue. Even though elements of that complaint have been dismissed, the case itself is far from over. So, what are the biggest legal dangers that Sean Combs still has to worry about? Well, without a doubt, the largest storm cloud hanging above Combs is the criminal matter. That's the one with the most devastating repercussions. If he's convicted, we're not just talking about damage to his reputation. We're talking decades behind bars. On top of that, the financial cost might be tremendous. His legal bills alone are already sky high. Add to that whatever criminal restitution he's compelled to pay, and by the time the civil claims get their turn in court, there might not be much left of his riches. It's absolutely feasible that Combs may be financially wiped out. And speaking of Lil Rod's case, yes, the judge dismissed some claims, but let others proceed forward. That's crucial. It tells us that the court perceives enough merit in at least some of the accusations to allow them to be heard by a jury. So even while it may look like a partial win for Combs, the remaining claims nonetheless have weight. And in a legal lawsuit, all you actually need is one strong cause of action to proceed and maybe win damages. It eventually comes down to credibility. Did these acts genuinely happen? And if so, what's the impact on the victims? Now let's talk money. With all this turbulence, what happens to Combs' business ties, his record label, his music on streaming platforms? Could we see the industry pull back, similar to what happened with R. Kelly? Honestly, I don't think anyone in the entertainment business wants to be affiliated with Sean Combs right now. Think about it. No celebrities are come up to defend him. None. This is starting to duplicate what we saw with R. Kelly, Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein. The allegations are severe, the number of accusers is considerable, and the public pressure is intense. Even if he somehow beats the criminal accusations, His reputation has already taken a major harm. Now here's a fascinating twist. If more of these cases get thrown out, could Combs possibly reverse the script and go after his accusers for defamation? Jay-Z recently done something like that when his accuser dropped her lawsuit with prejudice. That means the matter is forever closed, and now he's suing not just the accuser, but her lawyer too, alleging their tale was untrue and hurtful. But here's the issue with defamation. You've got to win first. Truth is the ultimate defense. If even one of these sexual assault cases sticks, then Combs can't argue he was wrongfully accused. And let's be real, there are still dozens more civil actions pending. He'd have to fight and win each one before even thinking about filing a slander complaint.